Are you stuck in a cycle of self-sabotage? I hear you. That was me for almost 10 years, and I am finally free from the same repeated cycle of self-sabotage. If this resonates with you, then I will be sharing with you my story and what led me to finally breaking free from what was holding me back. I'm Meg, and I shared in my previous video that I'd recently moved from living in a city my whole life to the countryside in the beautiful Ireland. Prior to the move, I lived in Liverpool for 6 years. Don't get me wrong, I had a lot of fun, way too much fun. I met some great people, had amazing memories. I was really ready for a change. I was ready to move on, I was ready for a new life, change of scene, and I'm so glad I made that decision. So prior to me living in Liverpool, I had self-sabotaged for a long period of time through drinking, smoking, partying. So then when I went to Liverpool, it was like heaven of being able to escape and continue the self-sabotage. There was always an opportunity to go out. There was always someone who wanted to go out. It was amazing for the self-sabotage side of me, but deep down I knew this wasn't good for me and I knew this wasn't the answer. So whenever I'd go out, I would go out and get to a point of blackout every time, or someone having to send me home, people worrying about me just going too far and not knowing my limits. And I was just clearly trying to escape reality, and I was clearly trying to run away. Don't get me wrong, I had a lot of fun, but the next day following, even multiple days after, it would just be me feeling so embarrassed and so ashamed and feeling so down. Easy to forget that alcohol is actually a depressant. If you already feel down, it can massively enhance that feeling. It led me to eventually asking myself, well, why am I trying to escape reality so much? What is that bad about my life that I don't want to face it? And I had childhood trauma, I had things I needed to heal from, and I knew that, I did know that, but I just didn't want to face it, and it was just easier to have a shot, take this, smoke this. It was just easier to do that. But when I wasn't going out and drinking, I was doing a lot of personal growth, self-healing work in my life. I was just absolutely obsessed and hooked when I discovered personal growth. So I was focusing on bettering myself outside of the party life, and I would do cold shower, go for jogs, meditate. I would do all these positive things, and then I'd realise that whenever I'd go out and drink, because I would do it in such an extreme way, it would undo all that hard work that I did during the week. And that's not necessarily true, but it felt like that. It felt like every time I would go out, I would just go back to square one, and that was just the repeated cycle of my life for such a long time. And it got to the point where I was actually like resenting going out. I just didn't want to do it anymore, because I could see that this night of fun would have such a long negative impact on my life when I was sober. And I was the sort of person where I would cling on to dear life, being high, and I just did not want to be sober again. I hated that feeling. The party was coming to an end. When the drink was coming to an end, I would just be clinging on, and I knew eventually like the daytime would come, me being sober would come. It got to a point where I really could see through going out, and I could see it for what it is, as just being an escape. But I was just still in a place where I cared so much what other people thought. So if I would say I'm not going to drink tonight, or I'm not going to go out tonight, people would say, oh, just have one, or don't be boring, you're no fun anymore. And those labels and those opinions of other people bothered me so much. I had like childhood trauma with fear of missing out, so the idea of me being the only one and people thinking negatively of me, it bothered me so much to the point where I would still go out, even though I didn't necessarily want to do it anymore, and I didn't see the point in it anymore, and I saw a negative effect on me. I would still do it purely because I cared so much about what people thought. At the end of the day, it was my responsibility. I chose to do it, but it just got to the point where I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore, but I'm still doing it. Does this relate to you? So the pivotal moment, you may ask, was when I went to Manchester with some friends. We got an Airbnb, and it started off as it always does, had a great time, but then Meg drinks too much, as I always did. Ended up with people really worried about me, my friends having to go home early, me losing my ID. I'm sure you've been there. So I was just here in this Airbnb in Manchester, just being so down, so upset, and just so sick of this feeling. Why am I doing this to myself? Why won't I just make changes? Just remember that feeling of just craving and longing and needing things to change, and being so sick of how things were, being so sick of just coming back to the same cycle, constantly returning back to the same cycle and not getting anywhere, and just feeling like all my hard work was getting undone. I know deep down this isn't right for me, so why do I keep doing this to myself? Why am I creating my own suffering? So after Manchester, I was in bed for a week, just feeling so depressed, knowing these things were not right for me, knowing that I was literally shooting myself in the foot. I know how to make myself feel better, but I'm choosing to do the opposite. Just because of people's opinions of me, I was still doing this. Then a light bulb moment happened where I realised that the people who love me, the people who have my best interests at heart, those people who care about me, would be happy that I'm making a decision that's best for me. And in that switch of realising that, it was so easy to say no to people. It was so easy to do what was best for me, knowing that people who had my back and had my best interests would support me in that decision. And after that light bulb moment, it was so easy. It has actually been one of the most easiest decisions I've ever made. Now, a year and a half being sober, I am so glad and grateful that I made that decision. I don't regret it at all. I don't feel like I'm missing out at all. Like the feeling of like me being in control of my own happiness, doing the things that make me happy, not sabotaging myself, me actually getting to where I want to be, achieving my goals, me getting ahead, because I'm not going back to square one. It was exactly what I wanted to do for so long. I'm so glad I did it. I don't have any regrets because I think that everything happens as it's meant to. The version that we're at right now, we need to experience the lessons, the growth, a sign for you that if you're doing anything in your life, no matter what it is, that isn't serving you, that isn't making you happy, question why you're doing it. Ask yourself, what's it going to take for you to change that? What is your alternative? Are you just going to keep doing it till you're 50, till you're 60? Are you just going to keep doing this forever? Just doing things that don't make you happy. What is the point? What is the point? You've got one life to live as you. Do what makes you happy. Don't worry about what people think. Something that really pleasantly surprised me through saying no to people with drinking was how many people turned around and said, I'm so glad you said that, I feel the same, I don't want to drink either. And it doesn't have to just be with drinking, but you'll be so surprised that by you being the first person, I know it's really scary, I know it's intimidating, but by you being that person to say no to something and to do what's right for you, you are showing other people that it's possible. You're encouraging people to do what's best for them. It may be hard at first, but when you make that decision, anything after that first time becomes so much easier. So I encourage you to really think about what you're doing in your life that isn't making you happy and to make changes. You are so powerful. You have such a big influence and impact over your life. You can literally change things like that. You have the power to change things in your life. You are not powerless at all. You hold so much potential to positively and dramatically influence your life. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll be sharing with you the next part in my story. Before I moved to Liverpool and I felt really unfulfilled, really lost. I went to uni, I dropped out. If this relates to you, then keep your eyes peeled for the next video. I'm sending you love.